The sound of shattering glass jolted me from my reverie. I stood frozen, staring at the remains of Mark's favorite crystal tumbler scattered across the kitchen floor. For a moment, all I could hear was my own heartbeat, thundering in my ears. "Lily, what the hell was that?" Mark's voice boomed from the living room. I swallowed hard, my hands trembling as I reached for the broom. "It's nothing, dear. Just dropped a glass." Mark appeared in the doorway, his face twisted in a scowl. "Nothing. That was my grandfather's tumbler. How could you be so careless?" I bit my lip, fighting back tears. This wasn't the Mark I had fallen in love with 20 years ago. That Mark would have helped me clean up, maybe even laughed about it. This Mark, I hardly recognized him anymore. "I'm sorry," I whispered, avoiding his gaze as I swept up the shards. He let out an exasperated sigh. "You're always sorry, Lily. Maybe if you paid more attention to what you were doing instead of daydreaming all the time, these things wouldn't happen." I wanted to argue, to remind him of all the times I'd carefully tended to his precious belongings, but I knew it would only make things worse. Instead, I nodded silently and continued cleaning. "And speaking of paying attention," Mark continued, his voice dripping with disdain, "have you even bothered to check on my mother today?" I froze mid-sweep. "Clara, but I thought you were going to." "I asked you to do it, Lily. Can't you handle one simple task?" The broom clattered to the floor as I straightened up, finally meeting his eyes. "Mark, that's not fair. I've been taking care of your mother every day for weeks. You said you'd visit her today." His eyes narrowed. "Are you calling me a liar?" "No, I'm just saying." "You know what?" He cut me off, his voice rising. "If you can't even remember a simple request, how can I trust you to take proper care of my mother? She deserves better than this, Lily. Better than you." His words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back, gripping the edge of the counter for support. "How can you say that? I love Clara. I've done everything I can for her." Mark laughed, a harsh, mirthless sound that sent chills down my spine. "Everything? Really? Then why did I get a call from her doctor today saying she missed her appointment, an appointment you were supposed to take her to?" My mind raced. The appointment. How could I have forgotten? I must have mixed up the dates. I'll call and reschedule right away." "Don't bother," Mark spat. "I'll take care of it myself. Clearly, I can't rely on you for anything important." As he stormed out of the kitchen, I sank to the floor, heedless of the remaining glass shards. How had we come to this? Where was the man who had once looked at me with such love and admiration? The ringing of my cell phone startled me out of my misery. I fumbled to answer it, grateful for the distraction. "Lily, are you okay?" It was Faith, my oldest friend, her voice laced with concern. I took a shaky breath. "Faith, I don't know what to do anymore. Mark, he's not the same man I married." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Lily, listen to me. You need to get out of there. Come stay with me for a while. We'll figure this out together." As I listened to Faith's words, a small spark of hope ignited in my chest. Maybe it was time to stop making excuses. Maybe it was time to fight back. "Okay," I whispered, my resolve strengthening with each word. "I'll be there soon." Little did I know, as I hung up the phone and began to pack a bag, that this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would change my life forever. I woke up on Faith's lumpy couch, disoriented and groggy. For a blissful moment, I forgot why I was there. Then reality came crashing back, and I felt the familiar knot tighten in my stomach. "Morning, sleepyhead," Faith chirped, bustling into the living room with 2 steaming mugs of coffee. "How'd you sleep?" I sat up, gratefully accepting the coffee. "As well as can be expected, I guess. Thanks again for letting me stay." Faith waved off my gratitude. "That's what friends are for." "Now what's the game plan?" I sighed, staring into my mug. "I don't know, Faith. I can't just abandon Clara. She needs me." "And what about what you need, Lily?" Faith's voice was gentle but firm. "You can't keep setting yourself on fire to keep others warm." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Mark's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. "Where the hell are you?" Mark's voice was a mixture of anger and panic. "I've been calling all night." "I'm at Faith's," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I needed some space to think." "Think? What's there to think about? Get home now. My mother needs you." I felt a spark of defiance ignite in my chest. "No, Mark, I'm not coming home right now. We need to talk about how things have been." "Are you serious?" He cut me off. You're abandoning my sick mother because you need to think? I always knew you were selfish, Lily, but this is a new low. His words stung, but I held my ground. That's not fair, Mark. I've been taking care of Clara for months. I just need a little time. Time? He scoffed. Fine. Take your time, but don't expect to waltz back in here like nothing happened. And don't bother calling Clara. I'll tell her you've abandoned us both. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, tears welling up in my eyes. Faith gently took the phone from my hand. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I wiped my eyes, a mix of anger and determination rising within me. No, I'm done being sorry. I'm going to see Clara myself. An hour later, I stood outside Clara's door, my heart pounding. I knocked softly. Come in, Clara's weak voice called out. I entered to find her propped up in bed, looking pale but alert. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Lily? Mark said you'd left. No, Clara, I said, sitting beside her. I just needed a little break. I would never abandon you. Clara reached for my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. I know that, dear. I've seen how hard you work, how much you care. Don't let Mark make you doubt yourself. I felt tears threatening again. But I forgot your doctor's appointment. I've been so scattered lately. Hush, Clara interrupted. We all make mistakes. The question is, why has my son been making you feel so terrible about yours? I looked at her, startled by her directness. I don't know. He's changed so much, Clara. I barely recognize him anymore. Clara's eyes narrowed. I've noticed it too. There's something he's not telling us, Lily. I can feel it. Just then, we heard the front door open. Mark's voice called out, Mom, are you awake? Clara squeezed my hand. Don't let him bully you, dear. Stand your ground. As Mark's footsteps approached, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation to come. Whatever secrets Mark was hiding, whatever storm was brewing, I knew I had to be strong. For myself, for Clara, and for the woman I used to be. The bedroom door swung open, and Mark froze in the doorway, his eyes darting between Clara and me. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. This was it, the moment of truth, and I was ready to face it head-on. The tension in Clara's bedroom was thick enough to cut with a knife. Mark's eyes darted between Clara and me, his jaw clenching visibly. What are you doing here? He growled, his gaze fixed on me. I straightened my spine, drawing strength from Clara's warm hand in mine. I'm visiting Clara, Mark. She's important to me, too. Clara's voice, though soft, carried a steely undertone. Mark, dear, why don't you join us? We were just having a lovely chat. Mark hesitated, then reluctantly entered the room. He perched on the edge of a chair, his posture rigid. Mom, you should be resting. Lily shouldn't be bothering you. Nonsense, Clara retorted. Lily's presence is a comfort, not a bother. In fact, been meaning to talk to you both. I felt a flutter of nervousness in my stomach. Clara's tone suggested this wasn't going to be a casual conversation. What is it, Mom? Mark asked, a hint of worry creeping into his voice. Clara took a deep breath. I've been watching you two, and I can't stay silent any longer. Mark, the way you've been treating Lily, it's not right. Mark's face flushed red. Mom, you don't understand. I understand more than you think, Clara interrupted. I've seen the way you speak to her, the way you belittle her efforts. It reminds me of your father. The room fell silent. Mark's father had been a sore subject for years, his abusive behavior a dark cloud over Clara's past. I'm nothing like him, Mark whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. I squeezed Clara's hand, overwhelmed by her support. Clara, you don't have to. I do, Lily. She insisted. I won't stand by and watch history repeat itself. Mark, you need to take a hard look at your behavior. And Lily, you need to stand up for yourself. Mark stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here and be lectured. As he stormed towards the door, Clara called out, Mark, there's something else you need to know. He paused, his hand on the doorknob. What? Clara's voice was steady, but I could feel her hand trembling in mine. I'm changing my will. I won't have my money used to support the mistreatment of others. The silence that followed was deafening. Mark turned slowly, his face a mask of shock and anger. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life, Clara replied. Unless things change, I'll be leaving everything to charity. Mark's eyes narrowed, darting between Clara and me. This is your doing, isn't it? He snarled at me. You've poisoned her against me. I stood facing him squarely. No, Mark, You've done this all on your own." He advanced towards me, his fists clenched. For a moment I thought he might strike me, but Clara's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. "Mark, don't you dare!" He froze, then spun on his heel and stormed out of the room. The front door slammed moments later, shaking the house. I sank back onto the bed, my legs weak. Clara pulled me into a hug, her frail arms surprisingly strong. "I'm so proud of you, Lily," she whispered. "But I'm afraid this is just the beginning." As I held on to Clara, my mind raced. What would Mark do now? How far would he go to protect his inheritance? And most importantly, how would I find the strength to stand my ground in the face of his anger? Clara's words echoed in my mind. This was just the beginning. A storm was coming, and I needed to be ready. As I sat there, comforted by Clara's embrace, I made a silent vow. No matter what happened next, I wouldn't let Mark break me. It was time to reclaim my life, my dignity, and my future. The shrill ring of my phone jolted me awake. I fumbled for it in the darkness, my heart racing as I saw Mark's name on the screen. "Lily, it's Mom." Mark's voice was tight with panic. "She's had a stroke. We're at the hospital." I was out of bed and throwing on clothes before he finished speaking. "I'm on my way." The drive to the hospital was a blur. My mind raced with worst-case scenarios, each more terrifying than the last. When I arrived, I found Mark pacing in the waiting room, his face ashen. "Where is she?" I demanded. "They're running tests," he replied, his voice hollow. "It's bad, Lily. They're not sure if she'll—" He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Despite everything, my heart ached for him. I reached out, touching his arm gently. "She's strong, Mark. She'll pull through." Hours passed in tense silence. Finally, a doctor approached us, her expression grave. "Mrs. Henderson is stable, but her condition is serious. She'll need round-the-clock care for the foreseeable future." Mark and I exchanged glances. We both knew what this meant. "We'll move in with her," Mark said decisively. "We can take care of her at home." I nodded, pushing aside my reservations. Clara needed us, and that was all that mattered right now. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparations. We packed up our essentials and moved into Clara's spacious house. As we settled in, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was the calm before the storm. I was right. "Lily, where's my blue tie?" Mark's irritated voice echoed through the house. "I have an important meeting, and I can't find anything in this mess." I bit back a retort. We'd only been here for 3 days, and Mark was already falling back into old patterns. "I'll find it for you," I called back, forcing my voice to remain calm. As I searched for the tie, I heard Clara's weak voice calling from her bedroom. I rushed to her side, finding her struggling to sit up. "What do you need, Clara?" I asked gently, helping her adjust her pillows. "Just some water, dear," she whispered. As I held the glass to her lips, she caught my hand. "Lily, I need to tell you something important." Before she could continue, Mark burst into the room. "There you are. Did you find my tie?" I turned to him, exasperated. "Mark, your mother needs—" "My tie, Lily," he interrupted. "I'm going to be late." Clara's grip on my hand tightened. "Mark," she said, her voice surprisingly strong. "Sit down, both of you." We obeyed, the tension in the room palpable. "I've made a decision," Clara continued. "I'm changing my will again. Lily, I want you to be my primary caregiver, and in return, I'm leaving half of my estate to you." The silence that followed was deafening. Mark's face contorted with rage. "You can't be serious," he sputtered. "She's not even family." "She's more family to me than you've been lately," Clara retorted. "This is non-negotiable, Mark." As Mark stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him, I turned to Clara in shock. "Clara, I can't accept this. It's too much." She squeezed my hand. "You can, and you will. You deserve it, Lily. And you're going to need it." "Need it?" I echoed, confused. Clara's eyes met mine, filled with a mix of sadness and determination. "Mark isn't the man we thought he was. There's something you need to know." As Clara began to speak, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, was about to change. And I realized, with a mixture of fear and resolve, that I was standing at a crossroads. The decision I made next would shape the rest of my life. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever Clara was about to reveal. "I'm listening," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my heart. I stared at the pile of bills on the kitchen table, my stomach churning. Mark's latest budget cuts had left us scraping by, and I couldn't fathom how we'd manage this month's expenses. Everything all right, dear? Clara's gentle voice came from behind me. I quickly shuffled the papers together, forcing a smile. Just some household accounts, Clara. Nothing to worry about. She wheeled her chair closer, her eyes sharp despite her frail appearance. Lily, you don't have to hide things from me. I can see you're struggling. I sighed, the weight of our financial troubles pressing down on me. Mark's been tightening the purse strings lately. I'm just trying to make it all work. Clara's brow furrowed. That doesn't sound like the Mark I know. Has he explained why? Before I could answer, Mark's voice boomed from the hallway. Lily, where's the checkbook? I need to make a withdrawal. I froze, panic rising in my chest. We barely had enough to cover the bills as it was. Mark, wait! He strode into the kitchen, his eyes landing on the scattered papers. What's all this? Just organizing our expenses, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Mark, we need to talk about the budget. We're barely making ends meet as it is. His face darkened. Are you questioning my financial decisions? I'm doing what's best for this family. Clara interjected, her voice firm despite its weakness. Mark, if there are money troubles, we should discuss them as a family. He whirled on her. Stay out of this, Mom. It doesn't concern you. It does when you're living in my house, Clara shot back. The tension in the room was palpable. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Mark, please, we need to be honest about our situation. Where is all the money going? For a moment, I saw a flicker of something, fear, guilt, in his eyes. But it was quickly replaced by anger. I don't have to explain myself to you. Just make it work, Lily. That's your job, isn't it? As he stormed out, slamming the front door behind him, I sank into a chair, my head in my hands. Clara wheeled over, placing a comforting hand on my arm. Lily, there's something you need to know. I've been doing some digging, and I think Mark might be. The shrill ring of the doorbell interrupted her. Wiping my eyes, I went to answer it. A striking blonde woman stood on the porch, her perfectly manicured hand clutching an expensive handbag. Is Mark here? She asked, her eyes darting past me into the house. He just left, I replied, a strange feeling settling in my gut. Can I help you? She hesitated, then thrust an envelope at me. Just give him this. Tell him Lydia stopped by. As she turned to leave, a small velvet box fell from her purse. I picked it up, my heart pounding as I recognized the logo of an exclusive jewelry store. Wait, you dropped, I called out, but she was already speeding away in a sleek sports car. I stumbled back inside, the envelope and box feeling like lead in my hands. Clara took one look at my face and wheeled herself over. Lily, what's wrong? With shaking hands, I opened the envelope. Inside was a receipt for a diamond necklace, worth more than our mortgage payment. The date on it was last week, when Mark had claimed he couldn't afford to pay for Clara's new medication. Oh, Lily, Clara breathed, her eyes filled with sorrow. I'm so sorry. I suspected, but I didn't want to believe. The pieces were falling into place. The budget cuts, the secretive phone calls, the late nights at the office. My world was crumbling around me. I looked at Clara, tears streaming down my face. What do I do now? She grasped my hand firmly. You fight, Lily. You fight for yourself, for your dignity, and for the life you deserve. In that moment, standing in Clara's kitchen with evidence of my husband's betrayal in my hands, I made a decision. No more excuses, no more turning a blind eye. It was time to take control of my life, no matter the cost. You're right, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. It's time to fight back. The weeks following my discovery of Mark's affair were a blur of silent meals, tense conversations, and sleepless nights. I threw myself into caring for Clara, desperate for any distraction from the crumbling ruins of my marriage. One particularly trying afternoon, as I was helping Clara with her physical therapy, Mark stormed into the room, his face thunderous. Lily, we need to talk. Now. I exchanged a worried glance with Clara before following Mark to the study. He slammed the door behind us, making me flinch. Care to explain this? He thrust a piece of paper at me. It was a bank statement, showing a series of small withdrawals I'd been making. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I've been putting some money aside, for emergencies. Mark's eyes narrowed. Emergencies? Or are you planning to leave me? Mark, please, I began, but he cut me off. I knew it. You're stealing from me, plotting behind my back. Just like... He stopped abruptly, but I caught the slip. Just like who, Mark? Lydia? The color drained from his face. How do you know about Lydia? She came by the house, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Dropped off a receipt for a very expensive necklace. Funny how you can afford that, but not your mother's medication. Mark's shock quickly turned to rage. He advanced on me, backing me against the wall. You had no right to go through my things. And you had no right to betray our marriage. I shot back, finding a well of courage I didn't know I possessed. Just then, we heard a crash from Clara's room. We both rushed out to find her on the floor, her wheelchair overturned. Mom! Mark cried, helping her up. What happened? Clara's eyes met mine, and I saw a glimmer of something there. Determination, maybe even a hint of mischief. I was trying to reach my book. I'm sorry, I should have called for help. As Mark fussed over her, I noticed Clara slip something into my hand. It was a small key. Third drawer in my dresser, she whispered. Quick, while he's distracted. Heart pounding, I slipped away to Clara's room. The key fit perfectly into the lock of the third drawer. Inside, I found a thick folder labeled Mark Financials. I flipped it open, my eyes widening at what I saw. Bank statements, investment reports, even offshore account details, all showing far more money than Mark had ever admitted to having. And worse, evidence of large sums being funneled into an account under Lydia's name. Oh, Mark, I whispered, my heart breaking all over again. Lily, where are you? Mark's voice echoed down the hallway. I quickly locked the drawer and hurried back to Clara's room, my mind reeling. There you are, Mark said, eyeing me suspiciously. Where did you go? Just getting a glass of water, I lied, avoiding his gaze. Clara spoke up, her voice weak but determined. Mark, I think I need to go to the hospital. I'm not feeling well. The next few hours were a whirlwind of ambulance rides and emergency room visits. As we sat in the waiting room, Clara's words from earlier echoed in my mind. You fight, Lily. You fight for yourself. I looked at Mark, slumped in his chair, his face a mask of worry and guilt. I thought of the folder hidden in Clara's drawer, of Lydia and her diamond necklace, of all the lies and betrayals. In that moment, I made a decision. I would fight. Not just for myself, but for Clara and for the life I deserved. Whatever it took, whatever the cost, I would reclaim my dignity and my future. As the doctor approached us with news of Clara's condition, I steeled myself for the battle ahead. Little did I know, the true test of my resolve was yet to come. The shrill ring of the phone pierced the pre-dawn silence. I fumbled for it, my heart already racing. Hello? Mrs. Henderson? An unfamiliar voice. This is Mercy Hospital. I'm afraid there's been a complication with your mother-in-law. The world tilted on its axis. We'll be right there, I managed to choke out. I shook Mark awake, and we rushed to the hospital in tense silence. The halls were a blur as we followed a solemn-faced nurse to Clara's room. We were too late. I'm so sorry, the doctor said softly. We did everything we could. Mark collapsed into a chair, his face ashen. I stood frozen, unable to process the reality before me. Clara, my rock, my confidant, was gone. The next few days passed in a haze of grief and frantic preparations. I threw myself into arranging the funeral, desperate for any distraction from the gaping hole in my heart. On the day of the wake, I stood beside Mark, accepting condolences from a sea of unfamiliar faces. His hand on my back felt like a lead weight. Such a tragedy, I overheard one of Mark's aunts whispering. And to think if she'd been getting proper care at home. I stiffened, feeling Mark's grip tighten painfully on my waist. What exactly are you implying, Aunt Marge? Mark's voice was low, dangerous. The older woman sniffed. Well, if Lily had been more attentive, perhaps. How dare you? I interrupted, my voice shaking with fury. I did everything for Clara. Everything! Mark pulled me aside roughly. Lily, calm down. You're making a scene. A scene? I hissed. Your aunt is practically accusing me of killing Clara, and you're worried about appearances? His eyes narrowed. Well, if you'd been home instead of out God knows where. I was grocery shopping, I exploded. Because you cut off access to our accounts, remember? I had to scrimp and save just to keep food on the table while you were off buying jewelry for your mistress. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Mark's face contorted with rage. You vindictive bitch, he snarled. How dare you bring that up here now? Mark! His father's voice boomed across the room. What is the meaning of this? As Mark turned to face his father, I saw Lydia slip out of the room, her face pale. I made to follow her, but Faith appeared at my side, gripping my arm. Lily, don't, she whispered urgently. This isn't the time or place. I sagged against her, suddenly exhausted. You're right, I can't do this anymore, Faith. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. Then don't. You've got the evidence Clara left you, right? Use it. End this, once and for all. I took a deep breath, straightening my spine. She was right. It was time to fight back. As I turned back to the room, I saw Mark engaged in a heated argument with his father. Our eyes met across the crowded space, and I saw a flicker of fear in his gaze. He knew I had the power to destroy him now. I made my way towards them, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. This ends now, I thought. But before I could reach them, a commotion erupted near the casket. Mark's brother was on his knees, clutching a piece of paper and sobbing. "What is it?" Mark's father demanded. "Thomas, what's wrong?" Thomas looked up, his face a mask of shock and grief. It's Mom's will. She changed it. She left everything to Lily." The room erupted into chaos. I stood frozen, feeling all eyes turned to me. Mark's face was a storm of fury and disbelief. In that moment, I realized the true battle was just beginning. Clara had given me the ultimate weapon, but at what cost? As accusations and questions flew around me, I steeled myself for the fight ahead. For Clara, for myself, I would see this through to the bitter end. The tension in the lawyer's office was palpable as we gathered for the reading of Clara's will. Mark sat across from me, his jaw clenched, while his family huddled together, shooting daggers in my direction. Faith squeezed my hand reassuringly as Clara's lawyer, Mr. Jameson, cleared his throat. "Before we begin," Mr. Jameson said, "Mrs. Henderson left a letter to be read aloud." He pulled out an envelope and began to read. "My dear family, if you're hearing this, I'm no longer with you, but I hope my final act will bring the truth to light and right some wrongs. Lily, you've been more of a daughter to me than I could have ever hoped for. Mark, my son, I love you, but I cannot condone your actions any longer." Mark's face paled as Mr. Jameson continued, detailing Mark's infidelity, financial manipulations, and emotional abuse. With each revelation, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. Clara had known. She had seen everything. "And so," Mr. Jameson concluded, "Mrs. Henderson has left her entire estate to Lily with one condition, that she use it to build a new life for herself, free from the constraints and abuse she has endured." The room erupted into chaos. Mark lunged across the table, his face contorted with rage. "You manipulative bitch," he snarled. "You turned my own mother against me." I stood my ground, meeting his gaze steadily. "No, Mark, you did that all on your own." His father intervened, pulling Mark back. "Is this true?" he demanded. "Everything in that letter?" Mark's silence was all the confirmation needed. His Aunt Marge burst into tears while his brother Thomas looked on in disgust. As the family argued amongst themselves, I turned to Mr. Jameson. "There's more, isn't there?" I asked quietly. He nodded, handing me a thick folder. "Financial records, Mrs. Henderson. Enough evidence to ensure a very favorable divorce settlement should you choose that path." I clutched the folder to my chest, feeling a surge of gratitude for Clara's foresight and love. I looked at Mark, the man I had once loved, now a stranger consumed by greed and bitterness. "Mark," I said, my voice steady, "I want a divorce." He laughed bitterly. "You think you've won, don't you? You've got nothing without me. You're nothing without me." I shook my head, feeling a newfound strength coursing through me. "No, Mark, I'm everything without you. I'm free." As I turned to leave, Lydia burst into the room, her face tear-stained. "Mark, I'm pregnant," she blurted out. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at Mark, saw the panic in his eyes, and felt nothing. No pain, no anger, just a profound sense of relief. "Congratulations," I said softly. "I hope you'll be a better father than you were a husband." With that, I walked out of the office, out of my old life, and into a future bright with possibility. Faith fell into step beside me, grinning from ear to ear. "So what now?" she asked. I took a deep breath, feeling the warm California sun on my face. Now? Now I live, Faith. For the first time in years, I truly live. As we drove away, I thought of Clara, of her strength and wisdom. She had given me more than just financial security. She had given me the courage to reclaim my life. In the months that followed, I used Clara's inheritance to start a foundation, helping women escape abusive relationships. I found purpose in my work, joy in my newfound freedom, and peace in the knowledge that I had survived and thrived. Mark's attempts to contest the will fell flat in the face of the evidence Clara had gathered. Our divorce was finalized quickly, leaving him with far less than he'd hoped for. As I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the sunset over the city, I raised a glass to Clara's memory. "Thank you," I whispered to the wind, "for everything." The future stretched out before me, full of promise and possibility. I was no longer Mark's wife, no longer a victim. I was Lily, strong, resilient, and finally, gloriously free.
How can you go on a business trip abroad if you don't have a job? Aren't you embarrassed to lie like that? It's not a lie. I really am going overseas for work, I said. Well, then we're getting divorced, he said and walked out of the room. To him, it seems like working from home means I'm just being lazy and not really working. But I have a steady income and even help pay for our living expenses. Still, he doesn't see it that way. A few days after I got back from my business trip, I found divorce papers on my desk, already signed by him. If he can't understand me after all this time, there's no point in staying married, is there? So I signed the papers and went to the court. My name is Kelly Clarkson, and I'm 31 years old. My husband, Eric, is 34. We started dating in college and got married when I was 26. We were more like best friends than romantic partners, always speaking our minds. Sometimes that's good, but it can lead to unexpected problems. For me, the problem started when I talked to him about my dream. I've always wanted to run an online store selling imported goods. I got the idea while working part-time at a boutique as a student. I love foreign designs and was drawn to the unique items I saw there. After college, I aimed to open my own store, so I became a full-time employee at the boutique. Even with a full-time job, I couldn't give up on my dream. I really want to have my own shop filled with my favorite foreign goods and deliver them to customers, I told him. My parents and friends were supportive, saying things like, "Good luck," and "You'll surely succeed." I thought Eric would understand and support my dream too. I tried to bring up the topic with Eric when he got home from work. "Hey Eric, you know I've been talking about opening my own shop for a while. What do you think about that?" "Oh no, not this again. It won't work if you do it just like that." "You should give up," he replied. "Why would you say that? It's not just a sudden idea. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Impossible is impossible. Life isn't as easy as you think," he said. "There's no need to be so harsh. Why do you always shut down my ideas right away?" I said, raising my voice unintentionally. Eric looked at me with cold eyes and a scornful expression. "Then tell me, what's your plan if this idea of yours doesn't succeed?" he asked. "Well, I know it won't be successful right away, but..." "And what about your income until then? We're splitting the rent and living expenses now, and you're telling me I have to cover it all," he interrupted. "No, that's not what I mean. I have some savings for the initial costs, and I'll still pay the rent." "Oh, really? Then do whatever you want. But if it doesn't work out and you regret it, it's not my problem," he concluded. Every time I talked about starting my own business, Eric always got upset. The reason was simple. He worried my income would become unstable. The import shop where I worked was in a good location, and we had a lot of customers. Because of that, my income was pretty high, almost the same as Eric's, who worked in an office. It might even be a bit higher. That's why I often paid for meals when we went out and sometimes paid a bit more for the rent. The idea of my income going down was something Eric just couldn't accept. At first, he would say things like, "Why rush things?" or "You should take your time and prepare," in a kind voice. But now, he didn't mind hurting my feelings. Even so, I didn't give up on my dream of having my own shop, no matter how much Eric was against it. I focused on making my dream come true. As a result, I overcame his objections And at the age of 27, I started an online boutique. At first, just like Eric predicted, it was hard to get things going smoothly. But over the years, I tried all sorts of strategies. I used the advantages of an online shop by outsourcing to well-known e-commerce companies, promoting on social media, and doing everything I could to succeed. Thanks to these efforts, a year after starting my own business, things began to look up. I was able to make a steady income, expanded my customer base, and added more products. Now my yearly sales have reached $600,000. Because Eric was so against my business, I never talked about the sales. I figured he wouldn't care anyway, and he never asked. But he always reminded me about paying the rent and other living expenses. I always just gave him the money he asked for without making a big deal. I kept our conversations about work as simple and non-controversial as possible. But then, one day, something happened. I got a message on my online shop's direct messages. "I'm a regular customer of your shop. I was wondering, in addition to the international knickknacks, could you also sell furniture?" Actually, many customers had asked me to sell furniture too. But unlike small items, selling furniture online is more complicated. Furniture is more expensive, and things like the material are important. Even though I had worked in an import shop before, there are risks in buying and selling furniture without seeing it first. So I decided to call my old boss from the import shop to talk about it. "Hello, is this the manager? I have something I want to discuss with you." As soon as the manager Rachel recognized my voice, she sounded really happy. "Kelly, it's been a while. If there's anything I can help with, just let me know." "Well, I've had some requests to sell furniture in my online shop." "Furniture? That sounds like a big task." I was thinking of checking out the actual items before selling them. "How did you find your products, Rachel?" "I see what you mean. I can definitely help with that." Rachel, who had connections with suppliers from other countries, offered to contact one of them and arrange for them to provide furniture for my shop. Because of my good relationship with Rachel, the overseas supplier was willing to help. I decided I would travel abroad to find the furniture. However, I couldn't just leave without telling my husband. So that night, I brought up the topic with Eric. "Eric, about the week after next, would it be okay if I were away for about a week?" "A week? Why so long?" he asked. "Well, I might have to go abroad for work with Rachel from the shop I used to work at," I explained. "Abroad? If you're going to lie, at least make it believable," he said, sounding mocking. "What?" I asked, confused. He pointed at me with a mocking look on his face. "You're going overseas for work. You're almost unemployed. What are you even talking about? Wait a minute, you know I run an online shop, right?" "This trip is to find new items for the shop," I tried to explain. "So you think I'll just believe you if you say it's for work? Are you stupid? Your little shop won't get you far. Think what you want, but our sales are good and our customers are growing. This trip is because a customer requested it. I insisted. If you keep pushing, I won't allow you, practically a shut-in, to leave home for a whole week," he said, then stomped off to the bathroom with a beer in hand. A deep sigh escaped from my lips. Why can't he try to understand? His reaction is too harsh just because he doesn't approve of my work. But I can't go abroad without his permission. I need to convince him, no matter what. Even though I was nervous to bring it up again, I couldn't ignore the problem. The next day, when he came home from work, I spoke to him again. "Eric, about yesterday's discussion." "Look, I'm tired. I don't have time for your lies." He cut me off. "I'm only telling the truth. An unemployed person going on a business trip abroad." "You're good at lying," he said, mocking me again. "I'm not lying. I really have to go abroad for work, I said, grabbing his arm and pleading with him. He looked down at me, mocking me again. Oh, really? Then liars get divorced too. Divorced? What are you saying? I can't stand liars, especially people like you who always try to show off. I didn't mean. Shut up. You just want to use a lame excuse to go on a vacation abroad. I bet your boss is a man too, right? Divorce. I'll make sure to demand my share of everything, he said, storming out of the room. At that moment, a furious rage built up inside me. Who does he think he is, looking down on me like that? I work from home, but he only wants to feel superior. Enough is enough. If he wants it that way, then I'll do what I want. So I stopped asking for his permission and decided to go on my business trip abroad as planned. 3 weeks later, I went overseas with Rachel. We went straight to our suppliers in the U.S., where we checked out the furniture and accessories I would sell in my boutique. Since I was already abroad, I spent the last day sightseeing with Rachel, and we had a great time. However, it wasn't all easy. My phone was filled with angry messages from Eric. You didn't really go overseas, did you? Get back here now. I'll forgive you if you return today. Time's up. We're getting divorced, you worthless woman. Every message made me more annoyed, but I didn't reply. I knew that responding would only make things worse. When I get back, if he's willing to talk, we'll discuss it then. With that decision, I enjoyed a carefree week abroad. The business trip ended, and I said goodbye to Rettel at the airport. I started my journey home. Facing Eric was awkward, but I prepared myself and opened the front door. I'm home, I called out. The house was dark, and no one greeted me. As I walked into the living room, I saw laundry scattered on the floor. Used dishes and instant noodle containers were piled up in the sink. Amid this mess, I noticed a piece of paper on the desk. What is this? I thought. It was a filled-out divorce paper. Beside it was a rough note that said, "To the cheating, jobless woman, I'm ending things with you. Fill out the divorce papers immediately. If you want forgiveness, come to my parents' house, then I'll reconsider." Just reading the note, I could imagine Eric's smug face. He probably thinks that by writing this, I'd rush to apologize. Of course, I had no intention of doing that. I signed the divorce papers that Eric had left for me and went straight to the state court. Everything went smoothly, and the divorce was accepted without any problems. After that, I went to a real estate agent to cancel my lease on the apartment. This apartment was where I lived when I was single. When Eric and I decided to live together, he moved in because it was spacious enough for both of us. We had talked about moving to a bigger place if we had kids, but now that wasn't going to happen. Once I finished canceling the lease, I went back to the apartment and immediately started packing my things. The next day, I arranged for my belongings to be sent to my parents' house. I also made arrangements to have Eric's things sent to his parents' house. During this time, Eric kept sending me messages full of angry demands and accusations. Stop being stubborn and come apologize now. You have until the end of the week, and messages like that. I ignored all of them. I continued to pack and send everything from the apartment, both mine and Eric's, to our respective parents' homes. After the apartment was empty, I went back to my parents' home. A week later, my phone kept ringing nonstop. Even though I ignored it, the calls wouldn't stop. So I decided to answer the phone, planning for this to be the last time I talked to him. I pressed the answer button. Hello. Immediately, Eric started shouting. What the hell do you think you're doing? Surprised by his loud voice, I pulled my phone away from my ear. I decided to record the call just in case something happened. Then I spoke again. What's the big deal? There's nothing left to talk about. Don't mess with me. Why were all my things sent to my parents' house? I just got to the apartment, and it's completely empty. Oh, that? Well, I canceled the lease on the apartment, so I sent your things to your parents' house. What? You didn't even talk to me about this, he yelled. There was no need. You were so sure about the divorce, so I made my own plans. I didn't think you would want to stay in the apartment that was under my name, I explained calmly. You had no right to touch my things. He shouted angrily. Actually, I did. You left the divorce papers and made it clear you wanted out. I just took care of the rest, I replied. Eric was silent for a moment, probably thinking about what to say next. Then he finally spoke again. You're just trying to make yourself look good. You always do this. You never cared about what I wanted. Eric, you called me a cheating, jobless woman. You wanted a divorce and didn't care to talk things through. Now I made the changes you wanted. There's no point in dragging this out, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Dragging this out? You moved all my stuff without my permission. You didn't even give me a chance to decide. He raged on. You had a chance. You chose to end things abruptly and left me with no choice but to take action. You said you couldn't stand me and wanted a divorce, so I took care of everything, I responded. Eric was silent for a moment, probably thinking about what to say next. Then he finally spoke again. You're just trying to make yourself look good. You always do this. You never cared about what I wanted. I took a deep breath and said, Eric, I've always tried to be understanding and support you, but you made it clear you didn't respect me or my work. I'm not going to argue about this anymore. The decision is final. What about all the memories? What about everything we shared? He asked, his voice softer now. Memories are just that. Memories. We can't live in the past. You made a choice, and now we have to move forward. I wish you the best, but I'm moving on, I replied, trying to stay strong. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Eric finally said, Fine. Do whatever you want, but don't expect me to come crawling back to you. I don't. Goodbye, Eric, I said and hung up the phone. I felt a mix of relief and sadness wash over me. It wasn't easy to end things this way, but I knew it was the right decision. I took a deep breath and looked around my parents' house, feeling a sense of comfort and support. It was time to start a new chapter in my life, free from the negativity that had held me back for so long. I canceled the lease, so I had to move everything out. What? Canceled? How could you do something like that on your own? Eric shouted, sounding shocked and angry. The apartment was in my name. I can do whatever I want with it, I said calmly. At this point, I had nothing left to lose. His words didn't affect me at all, and I responded in a defiant tone. Eric's irritation was evident on his face. Don't mess with me. I don't care about the lease. We were married, remember? I lived in that apartment too, and you just went ahead and canceled it without even talking to me. Married, yes. But whether you think I cheated or not, we're still married. Canceling the lease on our apartment without discussing it with your husband. What were you thinking? You think you can just do whatever you want even though you're unemployed. I'll never forgive you for this. He continued to yell, showing no regard for my feelings or my situation. His rant made it clear he didn't care about me or my perspective at all, so I decided to tell them the truth. Sorry to burst your bubble, but you're getting all worked up about not forgiving me. And we're not even married anymore, okay? I said, trying to keep my voice calm. What? What are you talking about? Eric looked confused and angry. I submitted the divorce papers you left behind, so we're strangers now. Why should I keep renting a place for a stranger? Hold on, you're joking, right? "You're basically unemployed. You'd be in trouble without me," he said, trying to sound like he was still in control of the situation. "Don't make me laugh. When did I ever say that?" I replied, feeling a mixture of frustration and relief. Eric was caught off guard and didn't know what to say. He stammered, trying to find the right words. Taking the opportunity to release my pent-up frustration, I continued. "You've looked down on me all this time. I'm not the unemployed or jobless person you think I am. I didn't cheat on you. I was traveling abroad for work to find products for my customers. If you can't believe that, fine. But just so you know, I'll never forgive you." "Well, wait a minute. Your online store, it's not like sales can just go up like that," he said, still trying to argue. "I've been working hard for the past 5 years. You don't know anything about what I do, and you didn't even try to understand. You kept making assumptions and treating me like I was worthless." "5 years?" he asked, clearly surprised. "Yes, 5 years. Just so you know, I've been making many times more money than you. You looked down on me and belittled me. I don't want a marriage like this. You can live a miserable life on your own for all I care." Eric stood there speechless. He didn't know how to respond. I could see the realization starting to dawn on him that he had been wrong about me all along. But it was too late for regrets. "You've always tried to make me feel small and unimportant," I continued, feeling a weight lifting off my shoulders as I spoke. "You never supported me or my dreams. All you cared about was being in control and making yourself feel superior." "Wait, let's talk about this," he finally said, his voice softer now. "I didn't realize how serious you were. It's too late for that, Eric. You made your choice when you left those divorce papers and decided to treat me like I didn't matter. I'm moving on and I'm not looking back. But we were married." "We have a history," he said, still trying to hold on to something. "History is just that. History. We can't live in the past. You made it clear you didn't respect me or value our relationship. I'm done trying to make things work with someone who doesn't care about me." Eric looked like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. He just stood there, looking defeated and unsure of what to do next. I felt a sense of closure, knowing that I had finally stood up for myself and made a decision that was best for me. "Goodbye, Eric," I said, hurrying to leave. "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but I won't be a part of it." As I walked away, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. It wasn't easy to end things this way, but I knew it was the right decision. I had finally taken control of my life and my future. It was time to start a new chapter, free from the negativity and control that had held me back for so long. I took a deep breath and looked forward to the new opportunities and challenges that lay ahead, feeling stronger and more confident than ever before. I hung up the phone, deleted Eric's contact information, and blocked all ways for him to get in touch with me. It seemed he finally realized how many people were using my online store and how successful I had become. He even heard about my success through mutual friends. One day, he showed up at my parents' house, but I had no desire to see him or talk to him anymore. My dad turned him away at the door. Apparently, Eric's own parents found out about how badly he treated me and kicked him out of their house. Now I heard he is renting an apartment near his job and spends his time just going back and forth between home and work alone. As for me, I decided to stay with my parents for a while. Thanks to my job, I can work from anywhere, and that is a real blessing. My parents' house is quite old and needs some fixing up, so I am planning to start renovations soon. I'm confident that my online store will continue to grow and thrive. Living at my parents' house gives me the freedom to focus on my business without worrying about anyone else. I can travel abroad whenever I need to find new products for my store. Even though I now have a divorce on my record, I don't regret choosing to follow my dreams over staying in a toxic marriage. I plan to keep working hard and repay the kindness of the people who have supported me along the way. Every day, I get to work in a peaceful environment, free from the negativity that used to surround me. I can finally concentrate on expanding my business and exploring new opportunities. My parents have been incredibly supportive, and their encouragement has been a huge help. I'm planning to use some of the money I've earned from my store to renovate their house and make it more comfortable for them. The online store is doing great. I've expanded my product range and attracted more customers, which has helped increase sales significantly. I'm excited about the future and all the possibilities that lie ahead. Without the burden of a controlling partner, I feel more empowered and ready to take on new challenges. I've also reconnected with old friends who have been supportive and encouraging. They're happy to see me doing well and pursuing my passions. It's been refreshing to spend time with people who genuinely care about me and my happiness. Traveling has become a big part of my life now. I often go abroad to find unique products for my store. These trips have not only helped my business, but also allowed me to see the world and experience new cultures. It's something I always dreamed of doing, and now it's a reality. Looking back, I realize how important it was to put myself and my dreams first. Staying in a relationship that didn't support my goals would have only held me back. The decision to move on wasn't easy, but it was the best thing I could have done for myself. I'm proud of the progress I've made and the person I've become. The road ahead is full of potential, and I'm eager to see where it takes me. My focus now is on growing my business, taking care of my parents, and enjoying the freedom to live life on my own terms. I'm excited about the future and grateful for the opportunities that lie ahead. Hi there, my name's Nancy. I'm 21 years old. 3 years ago, I married the love of my life. Everything seemed to be going great. Even though my husband is Spanish, we didn't have many problems, except for the language barrier. To show my love, I decided to learn Spanish so I could talk better with him and his family. That's how much I loved him. I was doing this in secret. Johnson, my husband, and Mary, my mother-in-law, didn't know I was learning Spanish. Not only was I learning, but I got pretty good at it. I knew that if I was in Spain, I could manage. You might be wondering, if I'm so good at Spanish, why doesn't my husband know? Well, I was a bit shy. It can be scary trying to speak a new language, especially with people you're close to. But I decided it was time to stop hiding. I needed to speak Spanish with both my husband and my mother-in-law. After all, I learned to make communication easier, right? Well, it's a good thing I didn't start speaking Spanish right away, because I found out some surprising information one day that led to a series of unfortunate events. Hello, Mama. How are you, my son? Thank you for inviting me over this lovely Sunday afternoon. It was our pleasure, Mom. Hello, Mama. Hello, my daughter. How are you? Thank you so much for including me. Oh, hush, you know you're always wanted and welcome here. I brought some croissants and how do you Americans say, bagels? Yes, bagels and croissants for our afternoon tea. Oh, how lovely. Thank you so much. Come and sit, Mama. The food will be ready soon. Did she prepare the food? No, I did most of the prep. Don't worry. Oh, thank God. Hearing this, I wondered what she meant by that, but I was too shy to ask. How strange, Mary always seemed to like my cooking. Why was she saying those things? At the time, I thought maybe she just wanted to eat food made by her son. That day, maybe she wanted to taste food that reminded her of old times. Then I heard her say, I hate her cooking. Why did you invite me here instead of taking me to a cafe so we could avoid her, Mom? We agreed to speak in English so Nancy doesn't feel left out, remember? Oh, forgive me, my sweet daughter. I was just saying that the food looks so good. I was surprised to learn that my son made it. Oh, I wish it was you who made it. I love your cooking. At this point, I was confused. How could she say such awful things in Spanish and then lie to my face in English? I thought I might have misunderstood, but I had a plan to confirm what I heard. Oh, please don't worry. You should never feel ashamed to speak your native tongue. Go right ahead. I'll be fine. I wanted to catch what she was saying, so I planned to use the Google Translate app to record her and make sure I understood correctly. We all sat at the table, getting ready to eat, and what came next shocked me to the core. I want us to discuss our plan. The time is approaching. It's literally tomorrow, Johnson. You have to be serious. The app, along with my Spanish knowledge, confirmed there was some plan going on, but I didn't know what it was. Mama, not now. I said I would handle it. What are you going to tell her, Nancy darling? Please pass me the sugar. She doesn't know anything about the plan. I was just going to tell her that I would be out of town. Out of town? What for? What was going on? I was so confused. I was constantly looking down at my phone to see what the app was translating. I think they assumed I wasn't paying attention and became less careful with their words, which was good for me as I was learning their true feelings. She's not too smart. Look at her, glued to her phone. We can talk about this now, okay, Mama? Fine. What do you want to discuss? The plane is leaving at 2:00 p.m. Are you sure you'll be able to escape her then? Escape me? What for? I was so confused, but I stayed calm and pretended not to understand so I could plan my next move. Yes, Mama, I know. I will do what needs to be done. I know how important this is. It is extremely important. If your great-uncle doesn't see us tomorrow, he will give the house to someone else, like your cousin or your aunt. We can't let that happen. No one needs to know about this house. Oh, Mama, you're so funny. Don't worry. I just said that in English so she doesn't suspect what we're talking about. Nancy. Yes, oh, sorry, my love. I was just asking who made this delicious tea. It's splendid. Oh, that would be your talented son. I'm afraid I'm not as good as he is when it comes to these things. Oh, darling, your food is amazing. Amazingly terrible, Mom. She'll catch you. She can't catch me. She's too stupid to understand us. I don't know, Mom. She obviously understands some basics. Let's see, Nancy. How much Spanish do you know? At this moment, I knew I had to lie. I said I didn't know much so they would keep exposing themselves, and I could keep learning their true colors. How I managed to stay calm while being insulted still amazes me. I guess I knew it was more important to handle this situation than to get emotional. Right then, I said, oh, I'm still very bad at Spanish. I only know the typical things like buenos dias and como te llamas. But that's it. Oh, that simply won't do, darling. You should learn some more Spanish. Yes, ma'am, I will. Well, it's a good thing for Johnson and me, as we can gossip about you. I'm just, how do you say, kidding with you, mi niño. We would never do that to you. Are we doing it right now? Yes, which makes this extra funny. They laughed, and I kept using Google Translate. I also checked other apps, websites, and forums to see if what they were saying was correct. I got about 99% confirmation from these sources. Now that I knew they clearly didn't like me and were making fun of me, I had to gather as much information as possible. Even though their insults were hurting me, the next thing I heard shattered my resolve. As I was saying, this house is extremely important. No one can know about this house. Okay, we need to be the only ones knowing because we could make a lot of money. We can't lose this opportunity. I'm so glad we're doing this. It's a good thing we didn't tell my wife because I don't want to share the spoils. Me neither. Everything needs to go smoothly. Your great-uncle Jack said that whoever contacts him first about this issue will inherit the mansion. So we need to go there physically before anyone else and start working on remodeling and improving the house. I can't wait to have a house in New Hampshire. This is where I'll go to escape my wife and my life here in Mississippi. Sometimes I can't stand her. You know, you're still young, way too young to be married to someone like her. Come and live with me in New Hampshire. You can enjoy your youth with women and booze, have a good time, and then settle down when you're ready. Let's leave this place. Honestly, Mama, I think you're right. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt tears welling up. Excuse me, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Yes, I just need to get something from the kitchen. I couldn't listen to them anymore. I needed to collect myself and not make a scene. How could they say those awful things with me right there in the room? Did they have no shame? I was so upset I began pacing up and down the kitchen. And then I saw my mother-in-law's purse sitting on the counter. I decided to look inside and take her phone. Luckily, it was unlocked. I opened her WhatsApp and sent Uncle Jack's number to my phone. I quickly deleted the text from her phone, so it looked like nothing happened. It felt like I was acting on instinct. I didn't know why I did it, but I was glad because I was now planning to get back at them. I returned to the dining room where the conversation was still going on. They seemed to be talking about the same thing. So tomorrow we leave for vacation. I think it's well-deserved because of all the hard work we've been doing. I second that. We deserve this break. Is everything okay? Yes, honey, we were just talking about the weather and how it's a perfect day to go relax somewhere. Would you like us to do that maybe not today? See, no, okay. When would you like to go then, maybe tomorrow? Both Mary and Johnson froze slightly. I was looking for their reaction and noticed it. I don't think tomorrow will be possible. I asked Scene to help me with some things around the house. Oh, what things? Why is she asking so many questions? Just to move things around. I can help too if you like. That won't be necessary. See how nosy she is being? I don't like it one bit. Do you see why you have to leave this place? Don't worry, Mama, I've got this handled. I still managed to keep a smile despite knowing what they were saying. I was looking forward to my plan for revenge. I continued recording their conversations until the very end to make sure I had all the details. As I mentioned before, my Spanish was getting pretty good, but I still wanted to make sure I got the right information. That night, I snuck away to the bedroom and went to the office to do some more investigating. I replayed the audio, and sure enough, my doubts about my accuracy were gone. From this whole ordeal, I learned that there was a vacation planned for tomorrow to go and claim a house from Great-Uncle Jack, and that these people apparently hated me and were planning to leave. A bonus piece of information I got was when I went to the kitchen to pace. I had left my phone, which was still recording, in the room with my husband and mother-in-law, and I managed to pick up some more useful information. The conversation consisted of Mary asking Johnson about his computer password because she wanted to change some aspects of their flight. I managed to get the password and flight details. I must have hit the jackpot. I logged into Johnson's computer, and sure enough, there were flight details on the website where he booked the tickets. Feeling very sneaky and devious, I may or may not have changed their flight details, pushing their flight to the day after tomorrow. This was just phase 1 of my plans. There was a lot more to come. Since I had sent myself Great Uncle Jack's number, I was ready to do what I needed to do. "Hello, Uncle Jack. It's Nancy." "Oh, hello, darling. How are you doing? Is everything okay?" "Well, no, not really." I went into great detail, explaining what had happened that day. I even sent him the audio recording as proof, because without it, I doubt he would have believed me. We cut the call so he could listen to the voice recordings, and we talked again after. After he finished listening, wow, I don't even know what to say. How could Mary and Johnson do this? They were such sweet and innocent people when they were younger. How could they do this to you? To me? I know it's a lot to take in. It was shocking to me too. You have indeed improved your Spanish. Well done. Thanks, Jack, but now that we know this, what do we do? Well, obviously they're not going to get the house. That's a fact. After hearing all of this, there is no way that I would never give such a valuable and honorable gift to people who plan to ruin it with their evilness and foolishness. Okay, I get it. It's your house, and you have every right to do what you want with it. Yes, I do. From now on, I will ignore their calls. Let's see how they feel about that. Thanks again for bringing this to my attention. You are a good and kind-hearted person, Nancy. Please don't let the ugliness of this world change you. Thank you for your time and willingness to listen. Hearing what you heard today couldn't have been easy. I applaud you for your strength. Please take care, Uncle Jack. You too. Love, good night. With that, I knew I had secured the downfall of both Mary and Johnson. Now that everything was set, I just had to wait for the right moment to make my move. When I got back to the bedroom, Johnson was still fast asleep. It hurt to know that my husband, whom I love dearly, would treat me this way. I didn't know he felt all those things, and maybe if we had talked, we could have found a solution. But he chose to be deceitful. I took his phone and turned off his alarm. Without it, he would surely oversleep, and that's exactly what happened. I packed my things and went to a hotel for the night. I couldn't stay in the house with someone like that. The next day, absolute chaos ensued. I'm sure Jan woke up to 100 missed calls from his mother and was frantically packing because he hadn't packed the day before. I suspect this because I got a call from him at 1 p.m. Where the hell are you? Why didn't my alarm go off? And why aren't you here? Oh, I decided to take a little vacation day for myself. Oh, that's nice. A little heads up would have been appreciated, though. Yeah, likewise. Seen what? What do you mean? Anyways, that doesn't matter. I'm running late for my flight. I mean, my meeting with Mom. Why are you in such a hurry? I'm sure she wouldn't mind you being a little bit late. You don't understand. Anyway, it's fine. I won't be home tonight and tomorrow night. I've got a lot I need to do. See you later. Before I could even respond, he hung up. I'm pretty sure he was so overwhelmed that he didn't even check the proper details of his ticket, which I had changed to the next day. Through the Find My iPhone app, I saw that he made his way to the airport. Imagine waking up, rushing out of the house with only minutes to spare to make it to your flight, just to find out that it had been canceled. I'm sure he was moving like a madman up and down that airport. I could almost see him frantically checking his phone, realizing the flight details were wrong. Suddenly, I received a call from Mary. What have you done? What do you mean, Mary? Drop the act. I know you tampered with our flight. If by tamper you mean change the date, then yes, that's exactly what I did. Why would you do that? I was trying to help you guys out. Didn't you say you wanted John's help with moving some stuff around? I noticed that you had the flight booked for today, the same day John was supposed to help you. so I decided to change some things. You're welcome. Johnson, come and talk to your wife before I reach through the phone and strangle her. Johnson grabbed the phone. Listen here, Nancy. I don't know what you've done, but whatever it is, stop it right now. Uncle Jack still isn't answering his phone. Try again, Mary said, her voice shaking with frustration. He isn't answering his phone because he doesn't want to speak with you too, I replied calmly. You understand us? Johnson asked, sounding shocked. Every last word. But how? I've been practicing, I said, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. I've been learning Spanish so I could communicate better with you and your mom. But now I see it also helped me uncover your plans. Johnson's face went pale. You knew all along? Yes, I heard everything. Your plans to leave me, to claim the house without me knowing. I heard it all. Johnson and Mary were silent. I could hear their heavy breathing over the phone, the shock and fear evident in their silence. So what now? Johnson finally asked. Now you deal with the consequences of your actions, I said. I already spoke to Uncle Jack. He knows everything. You won't be getting that house. But Nancy, you don't understand, Johnson pleaded. We had no choice. We needed that house. You had a choice, I said firmly. You could have been honest with me. Instead, you chose to deceive me. Now you have to live with the consequences. There was another long silence. Then Mary spoke, her voice trembling. Nancy, we're sorry. We didn't mean for it to go this far. It's too late for apologies, I replied. You made your bed, now you have to lie in it. I hung up the phone and took a deep breath. It was done. I had exposed their plans and ensured they wouldn't get the house. I felt a sense of relief, but also a deep sadness. The man I loved, the family I thought I was a part of, had betrayed me. But I knew I had to move on. I packed my things and checked out of the hotel. I decided to stay with a friend for a while until I figured out my next steps. As I walked out of the hotel, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, relief, but most of all, a sense of empowerment. I had stood up for myself and taken control of the situation, and now I was ready to start a new chapter in my life, free from deceit and betrayal. I told you, Mama. I told you she might hear us. So that means yesterday you heard everything? Yep. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to divorce your good-for-nothing son and leave you two to deal with each other. How blessed. Stay. Oh, and next time you want to talk about someone with them right there in the room, make sure they don't understand what you're saying. Have a nice life. I hung up before they could respond. I was done with their nonsense. Later that day, I got a call from Uncle Jack. Hello, dear. How are you? I'm a bit upset. I just had an ugly fight with John and Mary, and now I'm getting a divorce from him. I'm so sorry that things turned out this way, Nancy. It's part of life, I guess. How are things on your end? Well, I finally spoke to them and gave them a piece of my mind. They are not happy. What did you say to them? I told John that he's an idiot for treating you the way he did, and told Mary that she's evil for roping her son into her schemes. I also told them that I have given you the house. You what? Yes, dear, the mansion is yours. Even if you get a divorce from John, it's all yours, and you can share it with whomever you please. I don't know what to say, Jack. It's too much. I wanted this house to go to someone kind and compassionate, but also tough and strong when needed. That's exactly who you are. A house is the least I could do after all the stress and turmoil those two put you through. The house is yours. Take it. After that call, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I had managed to distance myself from two toxic people, And on top of that, I have been given a multi-million-dollar mansion. It felt surreal, like something out of a movie, but it was real and it was happening to me. The next few days were a whirlwind. I moved my belongings into the mansion and started to make it my own. Every room, every corner became a testament to my resilience and strength. I decorated the house with a sense of newfound freedom and pride. I was no longer bound by the deceit and betrayal of Johnson and Mary. This house, this beautiful mansion, was a symbol of my victory over their treachery. As expected, Mary and Johnson were furious. They sent me constant threats, trying to intimidate me into giving up the house. But I stood my ground. Each time they sent a threat, I responded with a picture of a different part of the house, reminding them that it was mine, not theirs. I wanted them to see what they had lost, to feel the sting of their own actions. Revenge never felt so sweet. One evening, as I was sitting in the grand living room, surrounded by the opulence of the mansion, I reflected on everything that had happened. I thought about how much I had loved Johnson, how I tried to learn Spanish to communicate better with him and his family. I remembered the hurtful things they had said about me, their plans to leave me out of their lives. It had been a painful journey, but I had come out stronger on the other side. I received another call from Uncle Jack. "Hello, dear. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing." "I'm doing well, Jack. Thank you for everything. The house is beautiful. I'm glad you like it. You deserve it after everything you've been through." "I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. You know, Nancy, I've been thinking. Maybe you should consider staying in Spain for a while. You could use a change of scenery, and it might help you heal." "That's a good idea, Jack. I think I will. Thank you for the suggestion." As I hung up the phone, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The future was uncertain, but I knew I had the strength to face whatever came my way. I had overcome betrayal and heartbreak, and I had emerged victorious. This mansion was not just a house. It was a symbol of my resilience, my strength, and my ability to overcome any obstacle. In the end, I realized that the best revenge was living well. I had a beautiful home, a supportive family in Uncle Jack, and a bright future ahead of me. Mary and Johnson could stew in their own bitterness and regret, but I was moving forward with my life. And that, I knew, was the greatest revenge of all. Why did I receive a letter from my late mother-in-law? I was shocked as I looked at the envelope that had just arrived in my home mailbox. The letter was from my mother-in-law, who we had just buried yesterday. She had always been very kind to me since I married her son, and I loved her a lot. We often went out to eat, enjoyed shopping trips, and became close like friends despite being different ages. Her sudden death left me heartbroken, and even after her funeral, I was still struggling to accept that she was gone. Getting a letter from her during this sad time was a huge surprise. I quickly opened the letter and found something unexpected. My mother-in-law had asked a temple priest to send me this letter after she passed away. The letter told me to find a secret compartment in the family's old chest and reveal the hidden door. It gave detailed instructions on how to open this hidden door and made it clear I should do this alone. Seeing that my brother-in-law, his wife, and their kids were all out, I rushed to my in-laws' house. Using the spare key, I went in and followed the instructions to open this secret compartment by myself. "It's open," I sighed with relief and looked inside. My name is Betty. I'm 40 years old and work from home as a web designer. I married Kevin, who is 5 years older than me, 6 years ago. We met through a friend and are still very close. However, we haven't been able to have children yet. Both of us love kids and wanted to start a family soon after getting married, but it hasn't happened. I used to feel very sad about this, but there was always someone who was kind to me despite it all. My mother-in-law. "Betty, don't worry so much. There's no need to rush," she would say. "Hey, how about we go to the new waffle place near the station for a change?" My mother-in-law always encouraged me and spoke comforting words. She was bright, kind, and caring, and I loved her deeply. She often helped me, and over time, I worried less about not having children. Though I still want children, I've decided not to go for intensive infertility treatments, but to let things happen naturally. Since my husband Kevin often travels for work, my mother-in-law and I usually go out to eat or shop together when he's away. We've grown close, just like friends, despite our age difference. She lives nearby with my brother-in-law's family, who have 4 children. Although she gets along well with them, my brother-in-law and his wife often insult my husband and me for not having children. "Betty, you haven't had any children yet. We have 4 lovely kids here. Being childless is unfilial. Cut ties with your mother-in-law," soon Lisa, my brother-in-law's wife, would say smugly, and my brother-in-law Brian would agree, saying, "Lisa's right." Well, Kevin has never been impressive anyway. Even if you had kids, they wouldn't amount to much. Initially, my husband and I would respond to such cruel remarks from my brother-in-law's family. However, since they never listened, we gradually stopped reacting and tried to avoid them as much as possible. They treat us disrespectfully, but act very nicely in front of my mother-in-law. We haven't told her about their behavior to avoid causing her worry. One holiday, my husband, my mother-in-law, and I planned to go out for a meal together. When we arrived at my parents-in-law's house, she wasn't waiting outside as usual. "Is she not ready yet?" I wondered aloud. "She should be coming out soon," my husband replied. We didn't think much of it and waited. However, as time passed -10 minutes, then 15, she still didn't appear or answer her phone. "I wonder what's going on with your mom." I started feeling uneasy and increasingly anxious. We rang the doorbell of my parents-in-law's house, but there was no response. We decided to use the spare key to enter. "Hey, Mom," my husband called out as he took off his shoes at the entrance. But still, there was no reply from inside. With a bad feeling, we quickly searched for my mother-in-law, and then we found her collapsed in her bedroom. "Oh my God," I exclaimed as I rushed to her side, and my husband immediately called for an ambulance. It seemed that my brother-in-law's family was out because no one else was at the house besides my mother-in-law. The ambulance arrived in about 15 minutes, and she was swiftly taken to the hospital. But unfortunately, she passed away there. It was a stroke. My husband and I were heartbroken by this sudden loss, and we cried a lot. Not despite our grief, we knew there were many things to do, like preparing for her funeral. The funeral was to be a family affair, and my brother-in-law took on the role of the chief mourner to honor my mother-in-law, and I worked together with him on the preparations. However, even during the planning with relatives and discussions with the funeral home, my brother-in-law seemed reluctant and showed no signs of grief. He did his duties at the wake and funeral, but often he would call my husband over after talking briefly with relatives, and then abruptly leave, which offended them. During the post-funeral gathering with relatives, my brother-in-law was the first to sit down and refused to get up even when my husband urged him to greet the guests. He just sat there drinking his beer, and his wife did the same. So my husband and I went around thanking the relatives for coming and sharing memories of my mother-in-law. Seeing his parents just eating and drinking seemed to set a negative tone for the gathering. My brother-in-law's 4 children were busy playing games, laughing loudly, and playfully nudging each other, creating a mood that didn't seem right for after a funeral. None of my brother-in-law's family seemed sad about my mother-in-law's death. The other relatives noticed this and didn't try to talk to my brother-in-law and his wife. They just said goodbye and shared memories with my husband and me. Despite the obvious change in the relatives' attitudes, my brother-in-law's family didn't seem to care. They kept ordering more beer, talked about inheritances and planned trips, even though we were supposed to be mourning. It was disrespectful considering how much my mother-in-law had done for them while she was alive. I couldn't help but look at them with disapproval. The next day, my husband left early for some errands, and I was at home planning to check the mailbox for the newspaper. That's when I noticed a letter. Wondering who it could be from, I saw it was addressed to me. To my surprise, it was from my mother-in-law. Opening the letter in the living room, I found something unexpected. The letter said that my mother-in-law had arranged with a temple priest to send it after she passed away. It had instructions on how to open a hidden compartment in a chest and the contact details of the family lawyer. There was also a note to make sure I opened it by myself. I read my mother-in-law's letter over and over. Though she was slender, her handwriting was bold and strong. Touching the strong strokes of her writing that reflected her strong character, glancing at the clock, it was 8:20. No one should be at my in-laws' house now. The kids would be at school, and according to a social media post by my brother-in-law's wife, they had left early that morning. With this in mind, I quickly got ready to go to the family home. This morning, I saw that they were planning an outing together. They even sent their children to school, even though it was the day after our grandmother's funeral. They seemed eager to enjoy their day off. If their post was accurate, there should be nobody at the family home. I realized I had to go now, or I might not get another chance. When I used the spare key to open the front door of my in-laws' house, I entered slowly. It was sad that my mother-in-law, who always greeted me with a smile, wasn't here. Holding my aching chest, I went into her room. The chest, an old piece that belonged to my mother-in-law, opened smoothly, perhaps because she took care of it just as the letter said. I found a hidden door at the back of a drawer. Thank goodness it's open. I sighed in relief as I managed to open it. Safely inside, there was another document, along with what was written in the letter. What is this? I stared at the documents, feeling my mother-in-law's love and tears almost spilling. I felt like staying there and crying, but I had to leave quickly. It wouldn't be good if someone came back and saw me, especially since the letter said to do this alone. After returning home with all the documents, I contacted the family lawyer mentioned in the letter to inform them of my mother-in-law's passing. Just as I was about to reach out to my husband and my brother-in-law's family to see if we could all gather this weekend, I received an email. It was from my sister-in-law, urging us to meet at my in-laws' house this weekend for some important news. Despite feeling uneasy, declining seemed odd, so I agreed to her proposal. Over the weekend, I went to my in-laws' house with my husband, feeling nervous about the discussion. My brother-in-law and his wife had smug looks, and their 4 children were not around, probably taken somewhere else. As soon as we sat down, they presented a document. This is the will left by my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law announced loudly. The signature on the will was indeed my mother-in-law's, and it stated that all assets would go to my brother-in-law and his wife. See, it's written here that we get everything. So unfortunately, you won't get any inheritance. Too bad, huh? My brother-in-law laughed mockingly, his expression ugly, while my husband looked bewildered. I stood up quietly and brought in the lawyer who had been waiting outside. Who is this? My brother-in-law and his wife asked, puzzled by the sudden appearance of the lawyer. My husband, who didn't know the lawyer was there, was also surprised. This person is the lawyer whom my mother-in-law trusted during her life, I explained briefly. My brother-in-law and his wife looked confused and then angry. "Why did you bring a lawyer here?" they demanded. "It's part of my mother-in-law's instructions. She wanted the lawyer here to help make sure the estate is divided fairly," I said. My brother-in-law and his wife insisted loudly that they didn't need a lawyer. My brother-in-law slammed his hand on the desk and pointed at the will, saying, "My mother left a will. We don't need a lawyer." The lawyer quietly raised his hand and asked, "Are you sure your mother wrote the entire will herself?" "That's obvious." My brother-in-law shouted back. The lawyer looked concerned and shook his head. "This can't be recognized as a valid will. A real handwritten will must be entirely written by the person it belongs to." He pointed out that only the words at the beginning and the signature at the end were in my mother-in-law's handwriting. The rest looked like it was printed from a computer. The room went quiet. My brother-in-law reached out to the will, but it still showed the same printed words. "Huh," suddenly my husband said. "Why is the back of the paper so clean?" I looked closely, and indeed, there was something odd. The handwriting in the signature section is different from the rest. Could this be forged? I wondered aloud. My brother-in-law and his wife trembled at the lawyer's observation. "What are you talking about? We wouldn't do such a thing," they stammered. "Why are you so nervous if it's not forged?" the lawyer cut in. "Forging a will is a serious crime." Hearing this, my brother-in-law and his wife turned pale. Despite their agitated and confused excuses, the lawyer delivered the final blow. "Betty has a notarized will, so your will is invalid." "What?" My brother-in-law and his wife gasped, their eyes wide. "We never heard of that," they said. In the letter I received from my mother-in-law, she mentioned that she hid a notarized will behind the hidden door of the chest. We didn't know about this earlier. The letter not only told us where she hid the will, but also explained why she made it and why she told me about it. My mother-in-law had been feeling her health decline and had prepared the will because she probably suspected that my brother-in-law and his wife might tamper with it. I thought she didn't know their true nature, but it seemed she had a sense of their greed. The notarized will stated that the assets would be divided equally between my brother-in-law and my husband. This surprised my brother-in-law and his wife, and their eyes went wide. Then my brother-in-law suddenly shouted, claiming he should be the beneficiary of our mother's life insurance as the eldest son. I calmly responded that the life insurance certificate was also with me, as per my mother-in-law's trust, and the beneficiary was me, not him. Inside the hidden door, there was not just the notarized will, but also the life insurance certificate. My brother-in-law and his wife couldn't believe it. They kept saying they knew nothing about this. The lawyer explained that changing the beneficiary of a life insurance policy doesn't necessarily require informing the original beneficiary. My brother-in-law was upset and slammed the table. My husband turned to me, anxious, and asked when his mom had entrusted these things to me. I smiled and explained that it was written in the letter from his mother. She had wanted to tell him too, but she was worried that if both of us knew, his brother and sister-in-law might become suspicious, so she trusted only me with the information. While my husband and I were talking, my sister-in-law burst in hysterically. She couldn't accept that we, who hadn't even shown her children to my mother-in-law, would inherit her estate. "This is ridiculous," she exclaimed. "I can't accept this at all." My brother-in-law chimed in, his face there, just for her inheritance, splitting it equally. "Don't make me laugh," he continued. "The inheritance is all ours," my brother-in-law asserted. My sister-in-law joined in, shouting and adding to his selfish claims. "We have 4 children as compensation for you not showing my mother-in-law any grandchildren. You should give all of her inheritance to our children for their future. We have shown her 4 grandchildren, so we are much more deserving than you." Despite my sister-in-law's aggressive tone, I stayed calm. "What you're saying doesn't make sense." "Please calm down," I said. My calm demeanor seemed to infuriate her even more. "Your calm attitude annoys me so much. Just give us the money already. You're a useless, childless woman," she yelled, lunging at me. My husband and the lawyer stepped in, but before they could stop her, my sister-in-law punched me in the head. Ouch! I cried out in pain. She had several large rings on her fingers, so it felt like being hit with makeshift brass knuckles. "Stop it." My husband and the lawyer pulled my sister-in-law away, but she tried to reach for me again in her agitated state. "Give us the inheritance. I deserve it all more than you do. I have 4 children," she shouted, her eyes bloodshot and her face twisted with anger. My brother-in-law egged her on, encouraging her to hit me more. Enraged, my husband called the police. When they arrived shortly after, he and the lawyer explained the situation. My brother-in-law and his wife were escorted away by the police. My husband and I thanked the lawyer and decided to send him home for the day. What was supposed to be a discussion about creating an estate division agreement turned into a chaotic ordeal. My husband and I agreed to bring a gift of apology another day. He was deeply concerned about me being hit by my sister-in-law, but seemed relieved when I told him the headache had completely subsided after the tumultuous events. "It's been quite an intense time," I murmured. Then, unexpectedly, my husband brought up something else. "Hey, Lisa seems to constantly talk about the children. You know, she always boasted about showing Mom 4 grandchildren and how great she was. Don't you think she's overly fixated on money?" Indeed, my sister-in-law had been excessively promoting her children and seemed really focused on money during the earlier argument. "Well, she has been quite vocal about the children for a while, and her obsession with money was indeed extreme," I replied. Her expression while hitting me was terrifying. Turning red as he shouted, "You unlucky bunch have no right to Mom's estate." We were living. I replied, "Yeah, you're right. It's a bit abnormal," he said, and then fell silent. "What's wrong? Is there something bothering you?" I asked, not understanding what he was getting at. "Well, there's something bothering me, and I'm considering suggesting it to my brother. I think it might be a good idea to have DNA tests done for their 4 children." My husband's response surprised me. "DNA tests?" "Yeah, and I'm also thinking about proposing a background check on Lisa. Something doesn't sit right with me. It's just a gut feeling." Although I thought it might be unnecessary, my husband's intuition had been accurate in the past. "Okay, if that's what you suggest, let's propose it to your brother later on," I agreed. When my husband told my brother-in-law about the idea, he ridiculed and yelled at him extensively. "Just because you don't have kids yourselves, don't doubt ours," my brother-in-law shouted. But before parting ways, he took some materials about DNA testing from my husband. Perhaps he had some doubts as well. The first revelation came from the DNA testing between my brother-in-law and his children. It turned out that 3 out of the 4 children didn't share his blood. I was a bit suspicious of the youngest child because they didn't look much like any of us, but I was surprised about the middle one too. My husband was speechless, and my brother-in-law decided to investigate his wife's background thoroughly. The results were shocking. It turned out that my sister-in-law had relationships with multiple men even before marrying my brother-in-law. Recently, her affairs were discovered by the wives of her lovers, who then demanded compensation. Since my sister-in-law was at home more often than my brother-in-law, she was able to hide any evidence, like registered letters. The compensation demanded was far more than she could afford from her earnings or savings. It became clear that she was determined to get her hands on my mother-in-law's inheritance at any cost. Eventually, the situation escalated, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law ended up in a violent fight, throwing things and hitting each other until the neighbors, unable to stand the noise, called the police. Both were taken into custody, facing charges for forging the will and now additional charges of assault. Further police investigation revealed they had committed theft and harassed wealthy individuals, among other offenses. Eventually, they both ended up in jail. As for the future of the 4 children they left behind, my husband and I were deeply troubled. Since my mother-in-law's passing, we have been the closest relatives. We considered taking them in, but decided against it after much thought. The children had been influenced so much by their parents that they casually insulted us as childless incompetents. The oldest at 19 should know right from wrong, and the youngest at 7 should understand proper behavior, yet they smirked and insulted us every time they saw us. Even with their parents in trouble, our 16-year-old nephew said, "We'd be better off raised by childless idiots," which was more than we could bear facing such hostility. We couldn't find any affection for the children or any hope of raising them to be decent people. Ultimately, we contacted my sister-in-law's parents and decided to sever ties with the children. It seems the children understood our decision, as our nephew said, "I'd rather live in Grandma's old shack than with the childless couple." With those words, we felt it was best to leave things as they were. We haven't told the children that 3 out of the 4 aren't biologically related to my brother-in-law. Whether we share this fact or not, we leave it to the relatives of my brother-in-law and his wife to decide. My husband and I decided to move to a distant place, using the inheritance from my mother-in-law to start anew. We moved to a place full of greenery and nature where we quickly felt at home. There's a charming waffle shop near our house, and every time we pass by, we wish my mother-in-law could have visited it with us. Soon after the move, I found out I was pregnant. When the pregnancy test showed a positive result, I couldn't help but scream with surprise and happiness. Later, the doctor confirmed that I was indeed pregnant. Both my husband and I cried tears of joy as we hugged each other. My mother-in-law would have been so happy if she were still alive. Additionally, the business plan I had been secretly preparing is progressing well. Both my husband and I are working hard, looking forward to the arrival of our child and enjoying fulfilling days full of happiness. Kevin and Brian, though they were our sons, grew very close to Lisa. She misled them with lies, causing them to ignore us. After Lisa, Kevin, and Brian were asked to leave our home, my husband Michael suddenly passed away. When I told Kevin about his father's death over the phone, his reaction shocked me. He said, "Your dad passed away. You handled the funeral, Mom. I don't want to see the face of someone who kicked us out. We're having a great time here, so don't bother us. Just tell the relatives we can't come because of work or something." I was speechless. A week after the funeral, I got a letter from Michael addressed to me. He wrote, "Please read this without our sons knowing." As I read, I was filled with emotion. Lisa had caused so much trouble in our family, and Kevin and Brian didn't even come to their father's funeral. I couldn't let it end this way. My name is Olivia. I'm 56 years old, a housewife, and I also work full-time. I met Michael at a party for new employees at our related companies. I'm not much of a drinker, but I couldn't turn down the drinks I was offered and ended up feeling very sick. I was sitting in a corner looking for a chance to leave when Michael noticed me. He started talking to me and even arranged a taxi for me later. I took a day off to thank him, and at his office, he was surprised to see me but pleased. We became friends, started dating, and eventually got married. We both longed for a warm family life. Michael had a tough upbringing, and I lost my parents when I was young. We believed we could be happy together, but living with each other brought unexpected challenges, mostly because of Michael's sister, Lisa. Before the wedding, I tried to meet her, but she was too busy. Our first meeting was at the wedding. Michael's parents had passed away, so it was a simple ceremony with just friends and relatives. Lisa drew attention in many ways. She wore a pure white dress that was quite revealing, heavy makeup like a stage actress, and lots of perfume. I tried not to show how upset I was, but Lisa either noticed or just didn't like me from the start. She didn't say hello and made fun of me. She said to Michael, "Couldn't you find someone better at your workplace?" Having such a plain sister-in-law is embarrassing. But maybe she suits you, Mr. Super Serious. Michael looked like he wanted to argue, but a fight on our wedding day seemed like a bad sign. I said, "I'm fine, let's go get ready." I forced a smile and led Michael away. That was our awful first impression, but I didn't worry too much, thinking we would only see Lisa at family gatherings now and then. However, things changed dramatically. Soon after a short marriage, Lisa moved in with us because of her husband's cheating. She said, "My ex left, and I want to move out too." Our parents sold their place when I got married, so I can't go back to my parents' house. Can I stay at Michael's place for a while? Michael was clearly annoyed and said, "Why don't you rent an apartment? You got plenty of alimony, right? Just let me stay until I find a nice place." I want to take my time, not settle for a rundown house. But in the end, Lisa just showed up with her stuff and moved in without asking. The main issue was Lisa didn't seem to realize we were taking care of her. She acted like it was her own house, which was very stressful for Michael and me. Lisa would go out every night, sleep until the afternoon, and then spend the day lounging on the living room sofa, playing with her phone or just watching TV. This was her routine until she went out again after dinner. Sometimes I took a day off and stayed home, so I saw this was what she did every day. When I came home tired in the evening after working all day, Lisa would ask in a complaining tone, "Hey, is dinner ready yet?" "How long until it's done?" I would say, "In about 15 minutes." She would reply, "That long? Hurry up, will you?" She also made rude comments about my cleaning, saying things like, "You're not very good at this," or "You're cutting corners." I share the cleaning duties with Michael. He's tired too. Lisa told me. As a wife, you should be doing all the household chores. I didn't want to complain to Michael about Lisa because I didn't want to ruin their relationship as siblings. But he noticed that I was becoming unhappy. When Michael asked me about it and I told him about Lisa's behavior, he got really angry. He told Lisa, "Don't overstep your boundaries. You're just a guest here." But Lisa just shrugged and said, "I'm just stating the obvious," and refused to help pay for household expenses. She said, "I'm still in shock from my husband's cheating. How can I work in this state? And you want to charge me? I can afford to pay for clothes and go out drinking." Lisa's attitude made both Michael and me very upset. My dream of a happy married life was turning into a nightmare because of her. Michael and I wanted to have kids soon, but it seemed like the stress over Lisa was getting in the way. We were even thinking about getting medical checks when I found out I was pregnant. In our 6 years of marriage, we were so happy and cried tears of joy. Michael saw this as a chance to suggest Lisa move out. He told her, "We're going to need more space when the baby comes. Maybe it's time you move to your own place." Then Lisa asked me, "What do you plan to do about work?" I said, "I plan to return to work after a year of parental leave." She offered, "Well, I can look after the baby." But we plan to use daycare. I checked around and found out that all the daycares, Even the unlicensed ones had long waiting lists. A few months later, as my belly began to show, Lisa said confidently, "I'll take care of the baby until you get a daycare spot. I owe you, and I'll do it for free. It'll be tough on your finances if you quit your job." After discussing it, Michael and I reluctantly agreed to let Lisa help. I was very worried, but to my surprise, Lisa took excellent care of our newborn Kevin. She learned about childcare online, prepared his meals, and even took him to parks and community centers. She was so dedicated to Kevin, and it showed in how much he adored her. Even when our second son, Brian, was born 3 years later, Lisa's care didn't change. With Michael and me busy at work, we were thankful for her help with the kids. But as the boys grew older, they started to avoid us more. When we suggested going to the amusement park or having a barbecue for Brian's birthday, they would say, "Lisa already took us to a fancy place," or "We're going with Lisa to a high-end sushi restaurant." It was hard for Michael and me to see how excited they were about spending time with Lisa. Even after Kevin and Brian started elementary school, they preferred being with Lisa. Even on weekends, they barely talked to us and acted like we weren't important, spending all their time playing games or going out with her. Things got even worse as Kevin got older. He openly showed he didn't like us, ignored us, and even made rude noises when we tried to talk to him. Once, when I told him not to eat while playing on his phone, he snapped at me, "Shut up, old lady." I was shocked to hear him say it. Would have been great if Lisa was our mom. She gives us money and takes us places. The boys even said being born to us was a mistake, and that they heard from Lisa we didn't really want kids. That hurt a lot. I calmly explained that Lisa, while not working and just living off her alimony, wasn't contributing financially. Kevin dreamily said, "Lisa's lifestyle is something to aspire to," and added, "But she raised us right. Complaining about her seems weird." They even questioned if we wanted kids at all, believing Lisa's claim that we had them just out of obligation, which was not true. Michael and I always wanted kids, and Lisa had only offered to help until we found daycare. I was very upset and couldn't believe what Kevin was saying to me. He smirked when he saw how upset I was and said, "You guys are always so annoying, telling us to do homework and that we play too many games." Lisa says it's fine not to do homework and even stays up playing games with us until morning. I snapped back, "Lisa isn't responsible for your future. Your dad and I tell you these things because we care about you, even if it means you might hate us." "Yeah, right. You're just jealous because we're close to Lisa. How dumb. Maybe you shouldn't have let her take care of us." I felt like crying. When I looked up, I saw Michael at the doorway, his fist shaking. He asked, "Who do you think you're talking to?" "Oh, hey, Dad. Working late again today." Must be tough with such a small salary. The boys laughed mockingly, leaving Michael speechless. "Finally, you talked to us and it. Just to mock your parents." Michael shouted. "Stop being so loud," Lisa called out as she came downstairs to the kitchen, looking annoyed. "Getting worked up over what kids say is so immature. It's because you spoil them that they're like this," Michael yelled. "I've had enough. Get out now." What, I've been nice to my nephews, and this is the thanks I get. "If you're going to stay, then pay your way," Michael said. Lisa puffed up her cheeks and finally agreed, "Fine, I'll leave." "Happy now?" "Lisa, you're really leaving?" I asked. "No way," Lisa replied defiantly. But Lisa quickly went to her room, packed her things in a suitcase, and came down to the entrance. "I've put my clothes in boxes. I've arranged for movers this weekend." "Leave it until then, okay, Lisa." "Are you really going?" "Yes, take care." She smiled at Kevin and Brian as they saw her off to the gate. Then she left, but it was too late to fix the relationship between us and our sons. As teenagers, Kevin and Brian became more rebellious. Kevin quit his job within a month after finishing high school, and 1 year later, Brian quit his job after just a few days. They talked about starting a business together and made some questionable deals, spending their money from odd jobs in one night. After a big argument, Michael kicked them out of the house. When you get a job, come back. No way we'll ever come back to this place. And so Lisa, who had caused so much trouble in our family, and the son she influenced, Kevin and Brian, left. It was back to just my husband and me. I was worried about how Kevin and Brian were doing, but without the four of them causing chaos, I felt relieved. At the end of the year, just as I was about to leave work and head home, I got a call from Michael's colleague. "Are you Olivia?" Michael collapsed at work. He's currently in the ICU at the city hospital. I said I would be there right away. I tried to stay calm and drove to the hospital. At the ICU, I waited in the hallway until the doors opened and a doctor in a white coat came out. He looked sad as he told me, "We did our best, but I'm sorry." I was too shocked to speak. That morning, Michael had left for work as usual. We had talked about keeping our schedule open for our anniversary next month. Sure, the usual restaurant. I have a surprise planned for this year. I never thought that would be our last conversation. Everything felt gray and meaningless as I stood there. I decided to contact Kevin, Brian, and Lisa to tell them Michael had passed away. I left a voicemail and sent a message. That night, Kevin called back. I could hear music and laughter in the background. As I tried to tell him about his father, my voice shook. Kevin laughed and said, "The funeral and stuff, I'll leave it to you, Mom. I don't want to see the face of someone who kicked us out. We're having fun here, so don't bother us." I could hear Lisa chuckling in the background. "Just tell the relatives we're absent because of work. Say hi to them for us." I stood in shock for a while, holding the phone. Were these really Michael's sons and sisters? Feeling empty, I knew I had to go ahead with the funeral arrangements. I got in touch with Michael's family and the funeral home we usually use to arrange a family funeral. Saying goodbye so suddenly didn't feel real, and I didn't cry during the funeral. But as everyday life continued, the pain of losing Michael kept hitting me. While making dinner, setting up to record a TV show we watched together, or making coffee, I'd accidentally make enough for 3 or start talking to him before realizing he was no longer there. That's when I couldn't hold back the tears. A week after Michael passed away, I was watering the flowers when the mailman arrived. I took the mail inside, and among the junk mail, I found an envelope addressed to me. The handwriting was unmistakably Michael's. Overwhelmed with emotion, I opened it. The letter explained that he had asked a friend to send this if something happened to him. After expressing his thanks for our years together, one line stood out, asking me to keep this from our sons. Moved by the letter and realizing how much Michael knew, I worried about the kids. I wiped away my tears and decided to take action. Lisa had hurt our family, and Kevin and Brian hadn't even come to their father's funeral. I was determined not to let it end this way. Michael's letter mentioned a package in a safety deposit box at a bank near the station, and he included a key. I went to the bank, entered the safety deposit box area next to the ATMs, and nervously followed the instructions. I inserted the card, entered the PIN, and a part of the table opened to reveal the safety deposit box Michael had rented. I used the key, found everything Michael mentioned, and took them with me. Later, I invited Lisa, Kevin, and Brian to my house. I decided to share Michael's inheritance with everyone important to him. With the promise of inheritance, Lisa, Kevin, and Brian came quickly. They had skipped the funeral, but were eager for the inheritance, which showed their shamelessness. Lisa couldn't even wait while I was making tea. She blurted out, stingy Michael had an inheritance. Maybe he hid money because he was so stingy. Being stingy might not be so bad after all. I wonder if he put his inheritance in some account. I'm excited. Then she looked at me and smiled. You did the right thing telling your sister-in-law, Mom. Stop beating around the bush. Is Dad's inheritance in jewels? Maybe gold bars. As they all fidgeted, I smiled and said, before that, please listen to this. I put an IC recorder and Michael's cell phone on the dining table, which confused them. Is that Dad's cell phone? And what's this, an IC recorder? The kind used for investigating affairs? I see it on TV. Wait, did Dad have an affair? Kevin laughed mockingly, but his smile vanished when I pressed play. Kevin's voice came through, talking on the phone. Yeah, remember that old lady you met at our house, Lisa? She wears so much makeup and clings to me, calling me Kevin dear. It's gross, but she'll hand over money if you flatter her. There's a use for fools and old ladies. As Kevin froze, Lisa's face filled with anger when the recording stopped. Lisa angrily asked, "What was that, Kevin?" He replied, "I don't know, a stranger maybe, or Dad recorded that voice." Over Lisa's shouted protest, Kevin continued, "Michael was too tech illiterate to do something like that." As Lisa and Kevin argued, Brian tried to leave quietly. I quickly played the second recording. How much money did you get from Lisa? $333,000. Damn, I only got $3,000. What did you do? Gave her a bouquet of roses and a high-end bag for her birthday. Maybe I'll give her a fake brand next time. She can't tell the difference. Kevin and Brian laughed, revealing their true colors. She loves getting gifts from men. Even though she's almost 50, she still acts young, falling for every compliment from men she meets at the bar and spending a lot of money on them. She's an easy target, really foolish. The brothers didn't hold back in their ridicule, even mocking her blonde hair and her unrealistic dream of marrying a young Korean pop star, which they found creepy. Amidst Kevin and Brian's laughter, after the recording suddenly stopped, Brian, with a forced smile, defensively muttered, "Man, when did Dad record this and show it to Mom after he's gone? That's just mean." Pretending to be a good guy, but those are the ones you can't trust. Even now, they continued to insult Michael, which made me very angry. Before I could speak, Lisa yelled at them, "You dare mock people. Who do you think raised you since you were kids? Don't mess with me. See, that's what's so annoying about you, always acting like we owe you." They replied, and Kevin and Brian's laughter made Lisa's ears turn red with anger. Now it's your turn, Lisa, having a favorite bar to go to. That's quite nice, isn't it? As I reached for the IC recorder, Lisa's face tensed up. Without hesitation, I pressed play. First, lively music and clinking glasses, then Lisa's high-pitched voice came through. That's right. I've had my nephews wrapped around my finger since they were little. I filled their heads with all sorts of nonsense about their parents. Kids are easy to manipulate. Oh, Lisa, you're so clever, praised the man proudly. Lisa responded, I'm single. I need them to take care of me in my old age. Look at my nephew, handsome, right? They look like models or pop stars, the man replied, growing more talkative. I dream of my nephews feeding me, taking me on amusement park dates, even changing my diapers in the future. Oh wow, going into a facility? No way. If I'm going to be looked after, it's by handsome men only. Can't wait. I stopped the playback and looked at Lisa, with Kevin and Brian's intense gaze upon her. She turned away. So both my brother and his wife had nasty hobbies, recording things secretly. I vented. Around so much, I heard from relatives and got curious. After all, the alimony from your ex-husband should have run out after 24 years, yet you remain unemployed. So I hired a private investigator to look into your background. I explained what had been recorded. Lisa, you really are quite a character. No, not funny at all, creepy really. What do you think of us? As the brothers cringed and hugged themselves, Lisa's eyes narrowed in anger. Shut up. I doled on you, spent my time and money. What's wrong with expecting something in return? Oh, you mean this? I said as I spread a bank book on the table, making Kevin and Brian's eyes light up. Oh, is this finally the inheritance? Well, sort of, I said suggestively, glancing at Lisa, who looked nervous and sweaty, her eyes shifting around as if looking for a way to escape. I turned to Kevin and Brian. Remember what I told you before? Michael cut ties with his father before we got married. Remember? Kevin nodded. Our grandfather, Dad's father, didn't work seriously. He relied on the family fortune and racked up a huge debt, I continued. That's right, I added. Michael's mother worked herself to death paying off those debts, right, Lisa? Lisa nodded. So the inheritance Michael received from wealthy relatives, he kept it a secret and deposited it in an account for you. We never heard about this. If there was money, why didn't he tell us? They asked. He planned to proceed with the inheritance once you started working seriously. But before that, someone used it without permission, I explained. Kevin and Brian turned to look at Lisa. No way, they said. Yes, I continued. Lisa had been taking Michael's bank book and seal without permission during his lifetime and withdrawing money. Kevin and Brian looked at the bank book, which now showed $300,000 down to $20. Hey, what did you spend it on? They demanded. Well, this guy convinced me there was a great investment opportunity. I thought I could double it and pay it back. I just borrowed it, that's all, Lisa tried to explain as she squirmed under their gaze. Kevin and Brian exploded in anger. Don't joke, that was supposed to be our money. Just $300,000 and you're making a fuss. Considering the effort I put into raising you, you should be giving it to me for free. Lisa shot back defiantly. This made Kevin and Brian even angrier, their veins popping on their foreheads, looking ready to confront her. But that wasn't all about Lisa. I sighed and spread Kevin and Brian's bank books on the table. You both started working right after high school, so the college funds were left untouched. I was going to give it to you once you started working seriously, but this too was meddled with, seeing only a few pennies left in their accounts. Kevin tore at his hair in frustration, and Brian almost cried. Damn it, woman, what you're doing is criminal. Yeah, we'll sue you. They threatened. Don't be silly, it's called family theft and doesn't count as a crime when done by a relative, Lisa replied, crossing her arms and legs and laughing annoyingly. I'll pay it back someday, maybe in the next life. You could be charged for it, I said. At my words, Lisa's eyes widened in shock. Huh. Indeed, relatives living together can't be charged for crimes, which is why Michael kicked you out, I continued. Planning to report you? Dumbfounded, Lisa asked in disbelief. You betrayed your husband's sister. Well, yes, that's what happened, I confirmed. Really? Unbelievable. After all I've done for you, how ungrateful, Lisa complained. Who's ungrateful here? I yelled back, silencing the room. I glared straight at Lisa, unleashing my fury. Because of you, our family is a mess. It's beyond repair. What are you going to do about it? Overreacting much. Lisa shrugged. I should have never trusted you and kicked you out sooner. I said. Then Lisa turned to Kevin and Brian, spreading a sinister smile across her face. I wanted to be a mom, huh? Since I couldn't become one, I thought I'd take your mom away from you too. Kevin and Brian looked terrified. Are you okay in the head? Just stay away from me for good, Kevin said. That's a problem. I came today to borrow money from you, Lisa smirked. We're family, she said, so we should help each other in times of need, right? Yeah, right, Mom. Suddenly Kevin and Brian, who had been furious moments ago, put on a smile. Actually, we're broke too. Got fired for talking back at work, for taking a little unscheduled break, they said arrogantly. Brian and Kevin complained bitterly. I felt a headache coming on. Getting fired is what you deserve, huh? Yeah, we got kicked out of our apartment, Kevin casually revealed. Didn't pay the rent, so we'll stay here for a while. That's okay, right? And cover our debts once we're debt-free, we'll start working seriously. Can't you lend us about $60,000? You're working, after all. Faced with their brazen request, I was stunned. I felt a surge of anger. Don't mess around. I have nothing to lend to sons who skipped their father's funeral. I refused strongly. But they kept asking, please, Mom, if you keep this up, I'll report you to the police too. Don't ever set foot in this house again. Just then, a police car siren stopped in front of the house. Lisa, trying to escape in a panic, ran into the police officers at the front door and was quietly taken away. Damn, are we going to get arrested too? Let's just get out of here for now, Kevin and Brian said. They glanced at me, standing firm, gave up on asking for money, and left. Kevin and Brian, realizing that the money Lisa had given them came from Michael and their own savings, seemed to have finally lost all affection for Lisa. I don't want to end up like them, they said, seemingly deciding to work seriously. However, their laziness didn't disappear overnight. They kept calling me. Mom, I'm being pressed for payments at the bar. Can you lend me some money? I blew it all on horse racing. Can you lend me about $200,000? I got so annoyed that I blocked their contact information. Later, they tried to ask other relatives for money, but were shunned and denounced as heartless for not attending their father's funeral, leading to estrangement. Eventually, pursued by debt collectors for borrowing from shady sources, Kevin and Brian woke up and started working seriously. However, they had racked up so much debt that they were banned from the nightclub and bars where they were regulars. Now shunned even at their favorite drinking spots, they complained, we've lost all the fun in our lives. Lisa, being a first offender, paid a fine and was released quickly. However, the incident led to her being dumped by her boyfriend. Moreover, after repaying the embezzled money from Michael's, Kevin's, and Brian's accounts, she ended up with a huge debt. Lisa now works from early morning till late at night, looking exhausted. What I kept secret from Lisa and my sons was that Michael had left another item in the safe, a large pink diamond necklace, a prestigious heirloom passed down from his mother. As mentioned in his letter, it was intended as a gift for our 34th wedding anniversary next year. Fearing it might be found and sold by Lisa or my sons, Michael had kept it in the safe. When appraised, it was valued at $360,000. To my astonishment, I wouldn't sell it. It's a treasured gift from Michael. Although I hoped for a warm family, things didn't go as planned with my sons, and I lost my husband too. But Michael's memory is still alive in my heart. Moving forward, I want to live strong and cherish the memories of Michael.